The 96-hour walkout on the wards.
Save our NHS! Save our NHS!
Junior doctors go on strike across England over pay and patient safety, but the government says the BMA's demands are unrealistic.
We are ready to have discussions with them, but clearly a demand for 35%, over £20,000 for some junior doctors is not fair or reasonable.
Also this lunchtime, President Biden in Belfast, the huge security operation ahead of his historic visit. The killing of a 60-year-old grandmother, one of the youngest people to be tried for murder in decades, a 12-year-old, appears in court. Swap to Stop, the new campaign to get smokers to vape, will get reaction. And Wrexham's football fairy tale, how an Easter win could mean promotion for the club owned by two star actors.
This is the ITV Lunchtime News with Nina Hossain.
Good afternoon. The second junior doctors' strike has begun. This one is longer and, crucially, this time, many of the consultants who covered the shifts during last month's industrial action are on annual leave for the Easter holidays. Once again, the dispute across England is over pay. The BMA is calling for a 35% pay rise and better patient safety. This lunchtime, the Health Secretary said a 35% pay rise is not fair or reasonable. Junior doctors make up around half of the medical workforce in the NHS, so any of them striking will have an impact. But this time, for so many days with so many consultants off, the medical director of NHS England has warned cover is very fragile. Lucy Watson has the latest.
1, 2, 3, 4. We can't take it anymore.
They chant out of deep-rooted frustration. Around 50,000 junior doctors on strike for 4 days in a row over pay. The most disruptive industrial action in the NHS's history.
Don't pay the bills.
We've been trained to a really high standard in medical school, and we can't offer you that care anymore because there's not enough of us.
We're doctors, we care about our patients, we care about the NHS. It's a very difficult decision, but I think we're all aware that this is the only way to actually improve conditions for both doctors and patients.
On the picket lines, they carry placards, but patients' lives are also in their hands. Nick Gladwell has bowel cancer. The appointment he needed before having his operation should have been today, but it's been cancelled due to the strikes.
It shouldn't be involving me. This is two parties at loggerheads, and I'm stuck in the middle, and I feel my life's been put on the line for money.
And it is essentially money in dispute. Junior doctors make up half of the NHS's medical workforce. The union is asking for a 35% wage increase to restore pay, which they say has fallen 26% in the past 15 years. The walkout means 350,000 appointments, including operations, will be cancelled. That's double the number cancelled during last month's strikes. Health leaders believe their demands are unreasonable, though, and have accused medics of being militant.
Clearly, a demand for 35%, over £20,000 for some junior doctors is not fair or reasonable, and that is why we've not been able to make progress so far. But we want to engage constructively. We recognise junior doctors have been under significant pressure, particularly from the pandemic, and we want to work with them to find a fair and reasonable settlement.
The impact on the health service is expected to be profound, with fewer consultants to cover the staff shortfall because of the Easter break.
This disruption is going to be incredibly significant. Our members tell us that they are worried that in some cases they may not be able to maintain patient safety to the standards that they would want to. A stalemate is not productive and it's not sustainable, and what we need now is resolution.
But resolving the most debilitating strike ever to hit the NHS looks like a distant prospect, putting patient care on a knife edge. Lucy Watson, ITV News.
Dr. Sami Manirajan, the Deputy Co-Chair of the BMA Junior Doctors Committee, joins me now from Trafalgar Square, where doctors will be gathering shortly. Thank you for talking to us this lunchtime on such a big day. Look, we've just heard the Health Secretary, Steve Barclay, say again today that a 35% pay rise is not fair or reasonable. How do you respond?
So our ask is based on how much we've lost as junior doctors over the last 15 years. We've lost 26% of our pay, and we're only asking to get back to net zero. So 35%, it sounds like a big number, but actually it's £5 to £10 per hour for our doctors. So a junior doctor who's graduated medical school with £100,000 of debt is being paid £14 an hour. Now, this doctor could be the one that restarts your heart if it stops in hospital and is looking after 200 patients overnight and is the first port of call.
He is saying that for some junior doctors that would lead to a £20,000 pay rise, and that viewers watching this won't support that. How do you respond to that?
That sounds like a huge number, and our junior doctors are feeling the pinch because they've lost 20,000. That's why it takes 20,000 to restore our pay back to net zero.
Was it responsible to take this decision to stage a strike when you knew so many consultants are on annual leave? It is, after all, the Easter school holidays.
So we are able to provide safe cover because our expert clinician consultants and SAS doctors are in hospitals covering for junior doctors whilst we take this action.
Can you guarantee safe cover?
So we have regular meetings with NHS England who alert us to any issues that are happening at any hospital within England. We can't guarantee anything in medicine because nothing is guaranteed. Any procedure carries a risk, but we know that we have safe cover in every hospital in England and we haven't been alerted otherwise.
What about if it's somebody whose delayed appointment means that their outcome, their surviving cancer, for example, is different because their treatment, that appointment was delayed?
I want to apologise for anyone who is in that position where they've missed out an appointment or an operation that they've been waiting months, if not weeks or years for. It's a shame that it's come to this, and it's a shame that Mr. Barclay won't meet us at the table. We've laid out openly, transparently, what it is that we're asking for, and that's pay restoration to 2008 levels. But Mr. Barclay refuses to meet us and give us an opening offer. If he met us today, tomorrow, Thursday, Friday, the strikes are completely avoidable. All we need is a credible offer to call off the strikes.
While we're at this junction where the two sides aren't meeting each other at all, are you at risk of losing public support by refusing to exempt any services from the action this time? Say, accident emergency or cancer care. There are no exemptions, are they? Why is that?
So for accident and emergency, any time-critical procedure or, for example, emergency theatres or A&E, there is enough staffing there. So we've got our consultants and SAS doctors stepping down there to provide that care. So that emergency care will not be affected by these strikes.
So you think the public will continue to support this action, those members of the public who have supported you thus far?
So we had a recent poll from Ipsos yesterday which showed that actually public support is up from the first set of strikes. The majority of the British public support us because they realise actually without doctors we can't get these waiting lists down. We've got 7.2 million patients on waiting lists at the moment. That's more than the population of Scotland. We can't get this number down without doctors working to see these patients. And I know that the public are behind us.
Dr. Manirajan, thank you very much for joining me this lunchtime. Thank you. In just under an hour's time, President Biden will leave America for Northern Ireland. His historic trip is to mark the 25th anniversary of the signing of the Good Friday Peace Agreement. The security operation for the visit in Belfast is huge, especially after MI5 raised the terrorism threat level in Northern Ireland. Our political correspondent Carl Dinnan is in Belfast. Such a big moment for the city, Carl.
Yeah, that's right. It's not every day the United States president comes to visit. And since yesterday, parts of central Belfast have been closed off, as you say, a huge security operation around those parts of town that the US president is expected to visit, including the University of Ulster campus, where he's expected to give a speech tomorrow after meeting Rishi Sunak for bilateral talks. There has been trouble here. The peace process that the Good Friday Agreement was the culmination of is not perfect. There was trouble in Londonderry yesterday with some petrol bombs thrown at police, and the political process isn't perfect here either. Stormont is still not sitting because the DUP are refusing to go back into government there. But the peace and the political process are still far in advance of anything that was seen in the days before the Good Friday Agreement, and it still stands, and America's part in that agreement still stands as a great achievement, and that's what he's here to mark.
And after his time in Belfast, what's the president's schedule?
Well, the visit here is relatively short, less than 24 hours before he heads to the Republic of Ireland, where there will be a number of events, including an address to both houses of Parliament there, and visits to places where President Biden's relatives came to America from in County Louth and in County Mayo. It is a much longer visit and reflects, I think, what his personality is and how he sees himself very much as an Irish Catholic American. And that's the image that he wants to present to voters back home as he gears up potentially for another election and another term if he can win it.
Carl Dinnan, thank you. The boss of the Confederation of British Industry, the CBI, has been sacked. The Director General, Tony Danker, was dismissed this morning after the organisation investigated complaints about his behaviour towards a female colleague at work. 3 others have been suspended after allegations rocked the powerful trade body that represents 190,000 companies across the UK. Let's get more from our political correspondent, Harry Horton. Harry, what does this mean for the CBI itself and its relationship with the government?
Well, the CBI is a hugely influential organisation. It's seen as the voice of British businesses, but these allegations have rocked the CBI. Tony Danker has been under investigation over an allegation of sexual harassment. Today he was sacked. The CBI said his own conduct fell short of that expected of the Director General. Tony Danker said that he was shocked to learn that he'd been dismissed and said, "I recognise that I unintentionally made a number of colleagues feel uncomfortable, and I am truly sorry about that." Now, separate to that, unrelated to Tony Danker, there are several allegations of sexual misconduct against CBI staff, including an allegation of rape at a summer boat party in 2019. Now, the CBI is liaising with police about this. An external law firm has been brought in to carry out its own investigation. The government says because these allegations are so serious, all ministers have paused engagement with the CBI, and Labour says it's doing the same.
What is happening at the CBI is incredibly concerning, and it's important that these reviews are able to take their course. Labour, like the government, have cut our ties and are not currently doing any engagement with the CBI.
Well, the CBI have now appointed a new Director General, Rain Newton-Smith. She actually left the CBI in March, but she's back now as she attempts to try and restore confidence in the organisation.
Harry Horton, thank you very much. Still to come, why vape starter kits will be given to 1 million cigarette smokers in England. And is this the true life Ted Lasso? How Wrexham could soon be promoted. First, one of the youngest people to be tried for murder in Britain in decades has made a second court appearance in Sheffield. The 12-year-old boy cannot be named because of his age. 60-year-old social worker and grandmother Marcia Grant died after being hit by a car outside her home last week. Our North of England correspondent Rachel Townsend is at Sheffield Crown Court. What happened there earlier, Rachel?
Well, the 12-year-old boy was led into courtroom 7 here in Sheffield by a court security officer and by 3 members of staff from his secure accommodation. He was dressed in a brown tracksuit and appeared relaxed throughout the hearing. He sat back in his chair, occasionally putting his hands behind his head, and at one point he yawned. He was also told to remove his feet from the front wall of the dock. Now, the 12-year-old is charged with the murder of Marcia Grant. She was killed after being knocked down by her own car outside her home in the Greenhill area of Sheffield last week. Now, since her death, there has been a huge number of tributes to the 60-year-old grandmother. She's been described as a pillar of her community. Lots of flowers have been left outside her home, and her family have said that her death sent shockwaves through all who knew her. Now, during this 20-minute hearing, the boy, who can't be named because of his age, spoke only to confirm his name and to acknowledge to the judge that he understood the proceedings against him. He was remanded into youth detention, secure accommodation, and his trial has been set for a provisional date of August this year.
Rachel Townsend, thank you. Police in the US say the man behind a mass shooting in Kentucky yesterday was streaming the attack live on Instagram. Connor Sturgeon opened fire during a staff meeting at a bank in Louisville where he used to work, killing 5 people. The 23-year-old shooter was killed at the scene. And a volcano has erupted in Russia. The ash cloud from one of the country's most active volcanoes on the far eastern Kamchatka Peninsula has spread more than 300 miles. Officials have closed the skies to aircraft and advised people living in villages affected to stay indoors. Next is Lunchtime. Attention all smokers. 1 million people who love a cigarette are being encouraged to swap them for vapes in a new scheme described by the government as a world first. Almost 1 in 5 smokers in England will receive a vape starter kit alongside behavioural support. Pregnant women will also be offered up to £400 to stop smoking. The aim is to fulfil the government's pledge to get the nation smoke-free by 2030. Some campaigners have welcomed the move, but others are still concerned about the number of children using vapes. Warren Nettleford has more.
It's never too late to stop smoking, and many health benefits will happen faster than you think.
For years, the government has promised to help England kick its smoking habit. And right now, it seems smokers are still too attached to cigarettes. And so here's a new plan. Out with the smokes, in with the vapes. It's the new habit the government wants smokers to pick up. Vape starter kits will be handed out to smokers, with the government picking up the tab. And there's more.
We did a large trial of using incentives, giving money, vouchers to pregnant women in combination with stop smoking service support. It was highly effective. And what the government has decided to do is roll out incentives nationally. And this will help pregnant women to quit. We know it works. There's really good research evidence.
Up to £400 is being offered to pregnant women to get them off cigarettes. Whilst that ambition is being welcomed, there are concerns there are already too many school-age pupils vaping. NHS figures say 9% of secondary pupils now use the smoking alternative. Back in 2019, the government pledged to end smoking. That's defined as getting rates below 5% by 2030. In 2021, smoking in England was the lowest on record at 13%. But a review published last year warned that 2030 target will be missed by at least 7 years without further action.
How do you stop the start? I want the government to pass new legislation to raise the age of sale by 1 year at a time until no one can buy a tobacco product in this country again.
In central London earlier, we asked these smokers if they'd be happy to swap, to stop.
It would be a good alternative if they were just offered a free version to try something else. So it would help.
Using a vape about 4 years ago, and apart from the financial benefits, obviously I feel a lot better in myself.
Definitely, yes. I find, so since I started, I tend to smoke less if I have a vape on me.
According to the NHS, 2 out of 3 heavy smokers will die from lighting up. Anti-smoking campaigners warn that more research is needed into the long-term consequences of vaping. They want the government to do more and go even faster to end smoking. Warren Nettleford, ITV News.
Finally, the Welsh football fairy tale continues. Not content with being owned by two-star actors, Wrexham now look like they could be heading back to the Football League for the first time in 15 years after a dramatic win over Notts County. After the clash, Ryan Reynolds described football as a beautiful, torturous game, but said the rules around promotion are insane. Our Wales reporter Rhys Williams has the story.
When it comes to drama, it doesn't get much better than this. A penalty save in the 96th minute following a pulsating top-of-the-table clash. It means that 20 years after their last promotion, Wrexham AFC are a big step closer to securing a return to the Football League. For the club's Hollywood owners, the joy and relief was clear.
I don't feel like I have a heart anymore. I think I used all the beats that I had left during that match. That was unlike anything I've ever seen before, and indicative, of course, of all of you lifers who have watched and participated in this game, this beautiful, torturous game.
Even long-suffering Wrexham fans, more accustomed to glorious defeat than victory, are starting to believe.
In 15 years we've been in this league. They've come in. We're a fan-owned club before. They've come in, taken us over the line.
Just can't believe it. Just when you think this club can't get any more crazy, something like that happens.
One slightly surreal aspect of this story for Wrexham fans is the new global interest in the club and the city, mainly from across the pond.
My name is Kyle Mielda. I'm from Wisconsin in the States. I couldn't sleep last night getting ready for the game. I woke up at 3 a.m. Just walked around. I paced around. I woke up my fiance 3 different times. It's just amazing to be part of this.
Coachloads of international tourists now flock to Wrexham, and it's all part of the club's long-term plan.
It's exactly, what we want to see and have that international appeal, but also that local appeal as well. And I think it's great for the fans, particularly the fans that have supported the club for many, many years through some very tough times. That at the moment we're on a very exciting journey.
Notts County remain hot on Wrexham's heels, but for now it's a moment to truly savour for the Red Dragons. Rhys Williams, ITV News.
Isn't it just? Mary's here at 6:30 from me and everyone on the team. Bye-bye.